The most dangerous decision you will ever make is not the career you choose, the city you live in, or the opportunities you accept. The most dangerous decision is the people you allow to stand close enough to shape the way you think. Because long before your actions change, your thoughts change. Long before your destiny changes, your daily conversations change. And long before you become someone extraordinary, or someone who quietly disappears into mediocrity, you become the reflection of the voices you listen to every day. Look carefully at your life. Every habit you struggle to break. Every dream you have abandoned. Every excuse that has become normal. Every standard you have accepted carries fingerprints. Rarely are they yours alone. Human beings absorb far more than they realize. A tree does not argue with the seasons. It simply grows according to the climate surrounding it. Place the same seed in rich soil, and it rises toward the sky. Place it in poisoned ground, and it spends its entire life fighting merely to survive. You are no different. Your environment is not just the place where you live. It is the atmosphere where your mind breathes. The conversations you hear become the conversations you eventually have with yourself. The complaints surrounding you slowly become your own language. The fears surrounding you slowly become your own limits. The ambitions surrounding you quietly become your own possibilities. This is why choosing your circle is not about popularity. It is about survival. Many people believe they are independent thinkers. Very few are. Most people simply inherit emotional patterns from those around them. Spend enough time with people who complain, and gratitude begins to feel strange. Spend enough time with people who settle, and excellence begins to look unnecessary. Spend enough time with people who laugh at discipline, and self-control starts to feel like punishment. You never notice the transformation while it is happening. That is the frightening part. The river never announces when it changes direction. It simply keeps flowing. Your mind works the same way. One conversation today, another tomorrow, one excuse repeated 100 times, one negative belief shared over dinner, one careless opinion accepted without questioning. Years later, you wake up wondering where your confidence went. You search for the moment everything changed. There was no single moment. There were thousands of tiny moments. That is how mountains are carved. Not by one storm, but by endless drops of water. The wise have always understood something that modern life constantly forgets. Energy travels, not in the mystical sense alone, but in the practical reality of human behavior. Calm creates calm. Discipline awakens discipline. Chaos multiplies chaos. Fear spreads faster than courage. Laziness reproduces itself effortlessly. The company you keep becomes the climate of your inner world. Notice how peaceful people make silence comfortable. Notice how anxious people make silence unbearable. Notice how focused people make distractions lose their attraction. Notice how shallow people make deep conversations disappear. Without realizing it, you begin matching their rhythm. The deepest influence in your life is rarely instruction. It is imitation. Children learn by watching. Adults pretend they do not, but they still imitate. Watch the posture of those around you. Listen to the tone of their voice. Observe how they respond when life becomes difficult. Do they become victims, or do they become students? Do they blame, or do they adapt? Do they seek comfort, or do they seek truth? Slowly, almost invisibly, your nervous system begins copying what it sees repeatedly. This is why some people leave every conversation inspired. Others leave every conversation exhausted. One circle expands your vision. Another shrinks your courage. One reminds you who you can become. Another constantly reminds you who you used to be. Not everyone deserves permanent access to your inner world. This may sound harsh. It is actually compassionate, because protecting your peace is not rejecting people. It is respecting your purpose. The ocean accepts every river, yet it never becomes less than the ocean. Can you say the same about yourself? Or do you become whoever you stand beside? Can one negative voice erase 10 days of discipline? Can one cynical opinion make you question years of commitment? Can one person's fear become your prison? If so, your foundation has not yet become your own. Strength is not proven when you stand alone. Strength is proven when the crowd cannot rewrite your values. Most people spend years trying to build confidence. Very few spend time protecting it. Confidence is delicate during its early growth. Like a young bamboo, it bends easily. It requires careful surroundings before it becomes strong enough to withstand storms. There is a reason ancient masters often withdrew into mountains. It was never because they hated humanity. It was because silence reveals what noise hides. Distance reveals what closeness distorts. When you are constantly surrounded by opinions, you stop hearing your own conscience. The loudest voices are not always the wisest. In today's world, volume often replaces wisdom. Everyone has advice. Everyone has certainty. Everyone believes they know the path. Yet very few have mastered themselves. A man who cannot master his anger cannot guide your future. A woman who cannot master her fears cannot define your possibilities. Someone who has surrendered to comfort cannot teach you greatness. Choose carefully whose footsteps you follow, because every path leads somewhere. Ask yourself an uncomfortable question. Who influences your decisions the most? Not who you admire. Who actually influences your daily behavior? Sometimes they are not the same person. You may admire courage while living among fear. You may admire discipline while surrounded by excuses. You may admire wisdom while entertaining endless gossip. Eventually, admiration loses to repetition. The mind becomes what it rehearses, not what it occasionally celebrates. This is why discipline is not only about controlling yourself, it is about controlling your influences. Every morning you choose more than your clothes. You choose what enters your mind. Every conversation is nutrition. Every friendship is a direction. Every environment is a teacher. Some lessons strengthen you. Others quietly weaken you, not immediately, gradually, like rust forming beneath polished steel. No one notices until the structure begins collapsing. People often ask why they cannot remain motivated. Perhaps motivation is not the problem. Perhaps they spend 6 hours building themselves and 18 hours surrounded by people tearing down what they built. No tree can grow while its roots are constantly disturbed. Your mind requires stability. It requires protection. It requires deliberate cultivation. The gardener does not hate weeds. He simply understands they cannot remain if flowers are to flourish. This is not cruelty. It is wisdom. Many relationships survive only because both people agree never to grow. Growth makes stagnant relationships uncomfortable. The moment you become more disciplined, someone calls you obsessed. The moment you become more peaceful, someone accuses you of changing. The moment you stop participating in meaningless drama, someone feels rejected. Do not mistake resistance for evidence that you are wrong. Sometimes, resistance is proof that your direction has changed. Growth always rearranges relationships. Not because success creates distance, but because different priorities create different paths. There comes a moment in every meaningful life when loneliness becomes healthier than constant distraction. Many fear solitude because they mistake it for emptiness. Yet solitude is often the birthplace of clarity. When external noise fades, internal truth begins speaking. For the first time, you hear your own thoughts without interruption. You discover desires that never belonged to anyone else. You uncover strengths that constant approval kept buried. Silence introduces you to the person hidden beneath years of influence. That meeting changes everything. Because once you truly know yourself, approval loses much of its power. You stop chasing rooms where you must shrink to fit in. You stop explaining your discipline to people committed to comfort. You stop negotiating with your own standards simply to remain accepted. The mountain never lowers itself to convince the valley of its height. It simply stands. Quitly, unshaken. This is inner mastery, not the need to prove, not the desire to impress, but the ability to remain faithful to your principles when no one applauds. Your circle should not merely celebrate your victories. It should challenge your excuses. Real friends do not help you avoid discomfort. They help you become worthy of your potential. They remind you of promises you made when your mind was clear. They refuse to let temporary emotions destroy permanent dreams. Such people are rare. That is why they are valuable. A single wise companion is worth more than 1,000 comfortable acquaintances. One truthful conversation can redirect an entire life. One disciplined example can awaken years of forgotten ambition. One calm presence can teach more than endless speeches. Never underestimate the silent influence of someone who simply lives with integrity. Their existence becomes permission for you to do the same. And perhaps the greatest question is not whether your circle is lifting you. The greater question is whether you are becoming someone worthy of a better circle. Because wise people also choose carefully. They protect their attention. They value their peace. They guard their time with quiet determination. They understand that energy is precious. If you wish to stand among people of strength, you must first become someone who contributes strength. If you wish to walk beside disciplined minds, your own discipline must become visible. If you seek truth, become truthful. If you seek courage, practice courage. If you seek peace, cultivate peace inside yourself before demanding it from others. The universe has an unusual way of introducing us to people who reflect the person we consistently become. Transformation begins long before introductions are made. It begins in invisible decisions. The decision to remain silent instead of arguing. The decision to read instead of scrolling endlessly. The decision to wake before excuses awaken. The decision to protect your attention as if it were your greatest treasure. Because it is, your attention becomes your life, where it rests. Who shapes it? Who is allowed to influence it? These quiet decisions determine the direction of your future far more than dramatic moments ever will. And there comes a day when you begin to recognize something extraordinary. The conversations that once entertained you no longer satisfy you. The distractions that once consumed your evenings begin to feel empty. The need to constantly belong starts dissolving into something much deeper. A quiet certainty begins to grow within you, almost like a flame protected from the wind. It does not demand recognition. It does not seek applause. It simply burns with unwavering purpose. That is the beginning of true freedom. Not freedom from other people, but freedom from becoming someone else, simply because everyone around you expected it. And once that freedom begins to take root, you discover that the greatest battles were never outside of you. They were fought in the quiet moments when no one was watching. They were fought between the voice that whispered, "Rest a little longer," and the deeper voice that calmly replied, "Rise anyway." They were fought between the comfort of remaining familiar and the uncertainty of becoming someone greater. Every person carries these two voices. One seeks immediate relief. The other seeks lasting transformation. One measures life by how comfortable today feels. The other measures life by who you are becoming tomorrow. The tragedy is not that the weaker voice exists. The tragedy is that most people never question it. They obey it so often that eventually they mistake it for themselves. But you are not every thought that enters your mind. You are the awareness that chooses which thought deserves your attention. This is where mastery begins. Not in controlling the world, not in controlling other people, but in controlling what receives permission to live inside your mind. A disciplined mind is not one that never experiences doubt. It is one that refuses to build a home for doubt. Fear may knock. Discouragement may visit. Failure may sit beside you for a season. But none of them are allowed to become permanent residents. Because the strongest fortress is not built from stone. It is built from repeated choices. Every time you choose patience instead of impulse, another stone is placed. Every time you choose silence instead of unnecessary argument, another wall becomes stronger. Every time you continue despite discomfort, another gate is reinforced. Eventually, life sends storms, not to destroy you, but to reveal what you have been building in secret. There is a profound difference between appearing strong and becoming strong. Assurances depends upon the opinions of others. Strength depends upon the promises you keep to yourself. Many people can perform confidence when everything is easy. Very few remain composed when certainty disappears. That is why adversity is such an honest teacher. It strips away performance. It removes decoration. It exposes foundations. When the wind grows violent, leaves are scattered. Only roots remain. So ask yourself, what are your roots? Are they built upon praise? Then criticism will shake you. Are they built upon success? Then failure will frighten you. Are they built upon comparison? Then someone else's victory will become your sorrow. But if your roots are planted in discipline, purpose, and truth, circumstances lose their power to define your identity. You no longer rise because life is easy. You rise because rising has become your nature. This is what so many misunderstand about discipline. They believe discipline is an act. In reality, discipline is an identity. It is not something you occasionally practice. It becomes the quiet language of your existence. You stop negotiating with every emotion that passes through you. Clouds pass across the sky. The sky does not chase them. Thoughts pass through the mind. The wise person does not chase everyone. Notice how much suffering begins with attachment. Attachment to comfort. Attachment to recognition. Attachment to certainty. Attachment to the expectation that life should always unfold according to your plans. But existence has never promised convenience. The river reaches the ocean because it never insists on flowing in a straight line. It bends. It adapts. It continues. Its strength is not found in resistance to reality. Its strength is found in persistence through reality. There will be seasons when progress becomes invisible. These seasons test nearly everyone. You work, you improve, you sacrifice. Yet nothing appears to change. The outside world remains silent. No applause arrives. No dramatic breakthrough appears. This is where countless dreams quietly disappear. Not because people lacked talent, but because they mistook silence for failure. Nature never rushes. The seed spends weeks beneath the soil, where no eye can admire its effort. Yet beneath that darkness, life is preparing itself. Roots spread before branches appear. Daft develops before height becomes visible. The world celebrates what rises above the ground. Wisdom respects what grows beneath it. Never become impatient with invisible growth. Some of your greatest transformations will happen where no audience can witness them. Your habits change before your reputation changes. Your thinking changes before your circumstances change. Your character changes before your results change. Everything meaningful begins inside. This is why comparison is such a dangerous distraction. You compare your visible chapter with someone else's invisible years of preparation. You compare your beginning with another person's mastery. You compare your struggle with someone else's highlight. The comparison is never fair because you are measuring different journeys. The mountain does not envy the forest. The ocean does not compete with the stars. Everything fulfills its purpose without abandoning its nature. Can you do the same? Can you stop measuring your worth against people walking entirely different paths? The moment comparison ends, attention returns. And attention is where power lives. Your life follows whatever consistently receives your focus. Focus upon your limitations, and they expand. Focus upon your excuses, and they multiply. Focus upon your purpose, and distractions begin losing their influence. Attention is like sunlight. Scattered, it warms very little. Concentrated, it becomes powerful enough to transform. This is why the modern world fears stillness. Stillness gives birth to clarity. Clarity destroys confusion. And confusion is profitable for those who benefit from distracted minds. Every notification competes for your awareness. Every opinion competes for your certainty. Every unnecessary desire competes for your peace. If you do not consciously choose where your attention belongs, someone else will gladly choose for you. Protect your focus with the same determination that a warrior protects the entrance to a sacred temple. Not everything deserves your response. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every argument deserves participation. Sometimes the strongest action is deliberate restraint. A sword kept in its sheath is not weak, it is controlled. Likewise, the disciplined person possesses tremendous strength, precisely because it is guided rather than wasted. Many believe power means speaking louder. Real power often speaks less. Silence is misunderstood because it cannot be measured by noise. Yet silence reveals who depends upon external validation and who has learned to stand comfortably with themselves. Sit alone long enough and uncomfortable truths begin to emerge. You recognize how often you sought approval instead of excellence, how often you pursued attention instead of meaning, how often you chased movement instead of direction. These realizations may humble you. Good humility is fertile ground. Only an empty cup can receive fresh water. The ego insists it already knows. Wisdom quietly remains teachable. Remain a student no matter how far you travel. The tallest bamboo still continues growing. The deepest ocean still receives rivers. The wisest soul still asks questions. The moment you believe there is nothing left to learn, growth quietly departs. Life has a remarkable way of rewarding those who remain patient with the process. Not patient in the sense of waiting passively, but patient enough to continue planting while others demand immediate harvests. Patterned enough to keep refining what no one praises. Patterned enough to repeat simple disciplines long after excitement fades. Enthusiasm begins many journeys. Consistency finishes them. You do not become exceptional through one extraordinary day. You become exceptional through ordinary days, repeated with extraordinary commitment. Wake up. Practice, reflect. Improve, repeat. There is nothing glamorous about this rhythm. That is exactly why it is so powerful. Most people are searching for a shortcut because they underestimate the quiet miracle of repetition. Water appears soft, stone appears hard. Yet over time, water reshapes stone. Gentleness sustained over years becomes unstoppable. Likewise, small disciplined actions possess astonishing force when protected from interruption. 1 page each day becomes a library. 1 hour of practice becomes mastery. 1 restrained reaction becomes emotional freedom. 1 courageous decision becomes an entirely different life. Never underestimate what your future self is begging you to begin today. The distance between who you are and who you could become is crossed 1 faithful step at a time. Not with frantic urgency, not with desperate comparison, but with calm certainty. The certainty that every honest effort leaves an invisible mark upon your character. And character is the only possession that cannot be taken from you by success or failure, wealth or poverty, praise or rejection. Everything external changes. The seasons change. Relationships change. Fortunes change. Even the body changes. But the person you shape within those changing seasons becomes the quiet companion who walks beside you through every chapter. And there comes a point when you stop asking life to become easier. Instead, you begin asking whether your spirit is becoming steadier. whether your mind is becoming clearer, whether your heart is becoming quieter, whether your discipline is becoming so deeply rooted that even uncertainty can no longer persuade you to abandon the path you have chosen. Because that path, once embraced with unwavering intention, begins revealing lessons that only those willing to continue walking can ever truly understand. And those lessons can never be borrowed from another person. They must be lived. They must be earned through mornings when you choose discipline over delay, through evenings when you choose reflection over distraction, through countless ordinary moments when no one is watching and no reward is guaranteed. This is where destiny is quietly written, not in moments of applause, not beneath bright lights, but in the invisible decisions that slowly shape an invisible character until one day that character becomes visible to the world. Never underestimate the power of becoming a different person before your circumstances become different. People spend years trying to change their lives without changing themselves. Yet, life has always responded to identity more than intention. You do not consistently act according to what you hope for. You consistently act according to who you believe you are. If you believe you are weak, every obstacle becomes evidence. If you believe you are unlucky, every setback becomes confirmation. If you believe you are incapable, every challenge becomes a reason to retreat. But the moment your identity begins to change, your choices begin to change. And when your choices change repeatedly, your future quietly follows. Transformation is not magic. It is accumulated alignment. Your thoughts align with your values. Your actions align with your thoughts. Your habits align with your actions. Your character aligns with your habits. And eventually, your life aligns with your character. Nothing happens overnight, yet everything changes over time. The sunrise never rushes. Still, it never fails to arrive. Become like that. Reliable, steady, unshaken by temporary darkness. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. Let them. There will always be people who question your discipline. Let them. There will always be people who feel uncomfortable watching you outgrow the version of yourself they became familiar with. Let them. Not every relationship is meant to accompany every season of your growth. Some people enter your life to encourage your beginning. Others remain long enough to challenge your resolve. Some quietly disappear because your direction no longer matches theirs. Accept this without bitterness. Trees do not mourn every leaf that falls in autumn. They understand that letting go is part of becoming stronger for another spring. Carry that same wisdom within yourself. Release resentment. Release the need to explain yourself to everyone. Release the endless habit of seeking permission to become who you are capable of becoming. Your life is too valuable to be governed by the expectations of those who have abandoned their own potential. Remember that your greatest competition has never been another human being. It has always been the person you could have become if you had continued choosing comfort over courage. Every sunrise asks the same quiet question. Will you remain who you were yesterday? Or will you take one more step toward the person waiting within you? That step may seem small. Wake up a little earlier. Write one more page. Speak one less complaint. Practice one more hour. Forgive one old wound. Protect one more moment of silence. These actions appear insignificant, yet mountains are climbed through ordinary steps. Plasterer's pieces are painted through ordinary strokes. Great lives are built through ordinary disciplines, repeated with extraordinary faithfulness. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment has never existed. There is only this breath, this decision, this opportunity to become slightly stronger than you were yesterday. Strength is never inherited. It is cultivated. Peace is never purchased. It is protected. Wisdom is never given. It is discovered by those willing to sit patiently with truth long enough for illusion to fade. And perhaps the deepest truth of all is this: the person you are searching for has been quietly waiting beneath layers of fear, distraction, comparison, and doubt. You do not need to become someone else. You need to remove everything that prevents your highest self from emerging, like a sculptor removing stone to reveal the statue already hidden within. Your work is not to add endless pieces to yourself. Your work is to remove what no longer belongs. Remove excuses, remove bitterness, remove endless noise, remove the hunger for approval. Remove the belief that your past has the authority to define your future. With every layer that falls away, your true strength becomes easier to recognize. One day, people will call you disciplined. They will call you focused. They will call you resilient. They will admire your calmness in moments where others panic. They will wonder how you remain steady when life becomes uncertain. They will think your strength appeared suddenly. Only you will know the truth. You will remember the mornings when no one believed in you, the nights when doubt sat beside you, the moments when giving up would have been easier, the countless invisible victories that no one applauded. Those were the moments that created you. Not success, not recognition, not comfort. Struggle accepted with dignity. Discipline practiced without witnesses. Faith maintained without guarantees. Never be ashamed of the pace of your journey. Oak trees do not apologize for taking years to become mighty. Diamonds do not regret the pressure that formed them. The strongest spirit is never the one that avoided hardship. It is the one that allowed hardship to become wisdom instead of bitterness. So choose your circle wisely. But even more importantly, become someone whose presence brings clarity instead of confusion. Become someone whose discipline inspires without speaking. Become someone whose peace calms restless minds. Become someone whose integrity remains unchanged whether the world is watching or looking away. Walk with quiet confidence. Speak with thoughtful intention. Act with unwavering discipline. And when life places obstacles before you, do not ask why the mountain is so high. Become the person who keeps climbing. Because the summit you seek is not somewhere beyond the horizon. It is within. It is the moment your mind no longer controls you. It is the moment fear no longer commands you. It is the moment comfort no longer imprisons you. It is the moment your actions finally become greater than your excuses. That is the victory no one can steal. That is the wealth no one can take. That is the freedom no circumstance can destroy. Guard your mind. Honor your discipline. Choose your circle with wisdom. Master yourself before attempting to master anything else. For when a person conquers the chaos within, the world outside loses its power to define them. And from that quiet place of unwavering self-mastery, a new life does not simply begin. It unfolds with every deliberate step, every courageous choice, and every disciplined day, until the person you once dreamed of becoming is no longer a distant vision, but the one who calmly looks back at every trial and realizes that the greatest transformation was never changing the world around you. It was becoming unshakable within yourself.